You have been told to chase goals, to dream endlessly, to set targets, to run faster. Yet, the more you chase, the more power slips through your fingers. What if I told you that your goals are your prison? In this lesson, we shall unveil a forbidden truth, one that rulers knew, conquerors used, and the wise concealed. To gain total control over your world, you must first delete your goals. There exists a peculiar illusion that rules the modern soul. An illusion so seductive that men proudly enslave themselves to it, believing they are free. It is the illusion of goals. You see, when a man is told to set a goal, he believes he has found direction. But in truth, he has merely placed a chain around his own mind. He trades command for hope. He abandons the present, the only battlefield where power truly exists, for a distant mirage that may never come. The weak call it ambition. The strong call it what it truly is, dependency. When you set a goal, you are no longer the master of your actions. You become a servant to an imagined future, a prisoner of what you hope will happen. Every decision you make bends toward this illusion. Every emotion rises and falls according to whether your goal appears closer or further away. You begin to dance for an audience that doesn't exist, an audience you've invented inside your own mind. Now, consider this carefully. The future does not belong to you. It has no loyalty. It moves with chaos, chance, and the will of others. Yet you build your identity upon it, like a castle on quicksand. Is it not madness to rest your peace upon what you cannot command? When I once served in the courts of Florence, I observed this flaw in every man who sought greatness. They believed power would come after the achievement, after they conquered, after they won, after they reached the goal. But by living for what is not yet real, they surrendered mastery over what is. They became dependent on time. They waited for permission from the future to feel powerful. The wise man does not wait. He does not live for his goal. He lives within his strategy. He treats each moment as clay to be shaped, not as a stepping stone to some distant dream. His focus is not on what could be, but on what is, because that is the only domain under his control. But the modern mind has been corrupted. It has been trained to worship the idea of progress, even if progress leads nowhere. People chase goals as if movement itself were a virtue. They run faster every year, yet feel more powerless. They believe they are advancing, when in truth they are only deepening their dependence on results. Imagine a prince obsessed with expanding his territory. Every morning, he dreams of the next city to conquer, the next wall to tear down. But while his eyes fix on distant lands, his enemies rise within his own palace. His guards grow disloyal, his people restless. His vision turns him blind to the present, and by the time he looks back, his throne is already gone. Such is the fate of every man ruled by his goals. His attention drifts from command to craving, from sovereignty to slavery. He thinks he leads, but in truth, he follows the shadow of what he desires. Now, let us look deeper into the psychology of this illusion. A goal promises control, yet it delivers uncertainty. It seduces you by saying, "Work for me, and one day you will arrive," but arrival never comes. Because once the goal is near, a new one appears. The mind, addicted to anticipation, cannot rest. You are caught in a loop of endless pursuit, mistaking motion for mastery. Those who control men understand this perfectly. They do not need to chain the body, only the desire. They give people goals and watch them willingly obey. The merchant gives the buyer the goal of wealth. The priest gives the believer the goal of salvation. The state gives the citizen the goal of achievement. Every ruler, every system, every ideology thrives on this illusion, because it keeps you chasing something they define. And while you chase, you cannot see who holds the leash. The powerful man, the truly Machiavellian mind, does not bind himself to such illusions. He understands that every fixed goal limits perception. When your eyes are fixed on one summit, you ignore the 10 opportunities that rise beside you. To be fixated is to be blind, to be adaptable is to be sovereign. Therefore, the illusion of goals is not merely a philosophical error, it is a strategy of control. Those who feed it rule. Those who consume it serve. The greatest deception of all is to believe that you must know your destination before you begin. No, the path is revealed only to those who walk it without obsession. Control is born from clarity, not from fixation. When you cling to a goal, you create fear. Fear of failure, fear of loss, fear of being less than what you imagined. That fear corrupts reason. It makes you act not from choice, but from desperation. And desperation is predictable. It is manipulable. The man who fears not reaching his goal can be led anywhere. Offer him progress, and he will surrender his power. Offer him hope, and he will forget his strength. The illusion of goals, then, is the most refined form of imprisonment. It makes a man believe he is in command, while quietly stealing the very ground beneath his feet. It teaches him to ignore his present influence in favor of a future fantasy. It replaces discipline with desire and clarity with craving. It transforms rulers into dreamers and thinkers into chasers. And so the wise must unlearn this poison. He must see that every moment already contains everything he needs to move, to act, to dominate, to adjust. The goal is not a destination. It is a distraction designed to pull his mind away from the arena of power, the eternal, unrelenting present moment. He must see that when a man becomes obsessed with where he is going, he forgets who he is becoming. And that is the final illusion. To believe that the measure of life lies ahead, when in truth, it lies exactly where you stand. Desire, the invisible chain that has ruled mankind since the dawn of time. It does not strike like a sword, it seeps like poison. You cannot see it, yet you obey it. You cannot touch it, yet it pulls every string of your behavior. Desire disguises itself as passion, as purpose, even as love, but beneath its mask lies the oldest tyrant of all, dependency. You believe you are pursuing your goals, your dreams, your ambitions. But look closer. Who truly commands whom? You chase, but it is desire that leads. You plan, but it is desire that whispers each step. You imagine that your vision gives you control. Yet it is the same vision that makes you restless, hungry, never satisfied. And what is a restless man if not an easy target for manipulation? Desire is clever. It does not demand obedience through fear, but through promise. It promises reward. It promises fulfillment. It promises that once you have this object, this title, this person, this achievement, then, and only then, you will be complete. But completion is a mirage that fades the closer you come to it. The moment you touch what you wanted, the fire shifts to something else. The goal changes form, but the leash remains. The tyrant of desire does not destroy you quickly. It makes you chase forever. It keeps you running, sweating, proving, grasping. It feeds you just enough hope to keep you alive, yet never enough satisfaction to set you free. The powerful know this. Those who rule, who shape societies, who control the thoughts of men. They understand that the easiest way to dominate someone is not to imprison them, but to give them something to desire. If you want to control a nation, you do not need to take away its liberty. You only need to convince its people that happiness lies in what they do not yet have. The merchant sells through desire. The priest preaches through desire. Lover manipulates through desire. Every form of control, every form of influence, begins in the same place. The human craving for more. Now, think of this every time you say, I will be happy when. You are building your own cage. I will be powerful when I reach my goal. I will be fulfilled when I earn that status. I will be free when I prove myself. These are not statements of ambition. They are admissions of slavery. You confess, without realizing it, that your power belongs to something outside you. Desire turns your focus outward. It tells you to chase what you lack, rather than master what you already possess. It blinds you to your current strength by promising you future greatness. And the tragedy. Most men die chasing what they could have created in the present moment, had they stopped chasing long enough to see it. I have observed that the strongest men, those who rule silently and command effortlessly, are not those who are most ambitious, but those who are most controlled. Their minds are not enslaved by longing. They are capable of wanting, yet they do not need. They can desire without dependence. And that distinction separates the manipulator from the manipulated. For when you are ruled by desire, you become predictable. Your moves can be read, your emotions can be provoked, your behavior can be directed. The man who craves power can be bribed. The man who craves love can be deceived. The man who craves approval can be humiliated. And the one who craves certainty can be led anywhere, as long as you promise him peace. Desire weakens your discipline. It infects your reason. It turns your strategy into obsession and your patience into agitation. You stop calculating outcomes and start begging for results. You lose the ability to think clearly because every thought is now tied to an expectation, an image of how things should be, rather than how they are. A mind filled with desire cannot see the truth. It sees only what it wants to be true. And once that happens, your perception is no longer your own. You become blind in the direction of your obsession, deaf to the warnings around you, and numb to the opportunities that lie outside your chosen fantasy. This is why I call it tyranny. Because it rules silently with your permission. It convinces you that you are in pursuit of something noble, while it quietly drains your control. You mistake craving for purpose. You mistake hunger for drive. But these are not signs of strength. They are symptoms of captivity. To master others, you must first master desire. But to master desire, you must see through it. Not destroy it. Not suppress it, but understand it. You must learn to look at your wants the way a strategist studies his enemies with detachment, not devotion. When you see how your own desires pull at your mind, you begin to see how easily they can be used against you. Most men live as puppets of desire, dancing to the rhythm of their own cravings. They call it motivation. They call it ambition. But what it truly is control. External control disguised as internal drive. And the saddest part, they believe they are free because they are chasing what they want. They do not realize that even their wants were planted there by others. By culture, by envy, by manipulation, by the endless whisper of comparison. The mind ruled by desire cannot rest. It cannot enjoy its victories, for every victory only awakens a new hunger. It is never still, never centered, never satisfied. It lives in anticipation, in tension, in the cruel gap between what is and what should be. And it is in that gap where manipulation thrives, because a man in conflict with himself will always seek a savior. The art of power, therefore, does not lie in desiring more, but in desiring wisely. It lies in being able to use desire as a weapon, not as a wound. It lies in controlling what you crave, before what you crave begins to control you. For the man who learns to govern his own hunger becomes untouchable. No promise can seduce him, no threat can shake him, and no dream can blind him. He acts not from need, but from choice. He does not seek power. He already holds it, quietly, within himself. The greatest shift in a man's power does not come from setting more goals, but from deleting them. To delete a goal is not to abandon purpose. It is to destroy dependency. It is to reclaim the throne of your own mind. When I speak of deletion, I do not mean apathy or surrender. I speak of liberation. For as long as your life is driven by fixed outcomes, you live in a cage built by your own expectations. You may decorate this cage with words like dream, vision, or ambition, but the bars remain. They keep you moving, yes, but only in one direction. And often, that direction is not chosen by you, but by those who benefit from your blindness. To delete your goals means to step outside this linear way of living. It is to break free from the illusion that life must unfold according to a plan. That control lies in knowing what happens next. True control is not found in predicting the future. It is found in commanding the present. The future is a landscape that shifts beneath your feet. Only the present can be molded, shaped, and bent to your will. The man who deletes his goals becomes dangerous. Not because he acts without reason, but because he acts without limitation. He is not bound to a single outcome. He adapts, he evolves, he adjusts in real time. He cannot be broken by disappointment, for his power is never tied to what he expected. His mind is fluid, his strategy alive. A goal is rigid. A system is alive. You see, the weak need goals because they fear uncertainty. The strong build systems because they understand it. The weak say, "This is what I must achieve." The strong say, "This is how I operate, no matter what happens." And that difference defines who holds control when chaos strikes. I have seen rulers fall not because they lacked ambition, but because they lacked flexibility. They built their strength around one specific outcome. A war they must win, a deal they must secure, a reputation they must preserve. When that single goal failed, everything collapsed with it. But those who ruled longest, those who endured the storms of politics and fate, were not the most ambitious. They were the most adaptable. Their minds worked like rivers, not walls. When blocked, they changed course. When obstructed, they found new paths. They never stopped moving, but they never clung to a single direction either. That is the essence of the strategy of deletion: to live in constant movement without attachment to a particular destination. Now imagine how this applies to your own life. You set a goal. I must become successful. You create a picture in your mind of what that success looks like. The wealth, the admiration, the freedom. You work tirelessly toward it. But with each passing day, your focus narrows. You begin to see only what aligns with that image, ignoring everything else that could lead you somewhere greater. You reject opportunities that don't fit the fantasy, even when they might have given you more power. And when the vision fades, when life does not follow your script, you feel lost. Not because you failed, but because you were blind to all other possibilities. The man who deletes his goals cannot be lost. He moves through the world like a strategist through a battlefield, aware of every change, responsive to every threat, ready for every opportunity. He acts not from obsession, but from observation. He does not say, "I must reach this specific point," but rather, "I must strengthen my position wherever I am." And that single shift changes everything. When you operate through systems instead of goals, you stop chasing outcomes and start refining behavior. You no longer wait for external validation, you build internal mastery. You stop asking, "Am I there yet?" and begin asking, "Am I acting in alignment with strength, with strategy, with control?" The difference is monumental. Systems are rooted in identity, in who you are and how you act daily. Goals are rooted in fantasy, in what you want and where you hope to be someday. The man of systems lives as the author of his fate. The man of goals lives as a reader, forever chasing the next chapter. But understand this: deletion is not destruction. It is transformation. It is the removal of dependence, not of direction. You still have aims, desires, plans, but they no longer define you. They serve you only as tools, not as masters. You use them when they are useful and abandon them when they are not. This is how one begins to move from ambition to dominance. Think of it like a general in war. The foolish general enters battle with one plan and prays it succeeds. The wise general enters with 10, knowing most will fail. But he adapts faster than his enemy. He deletes strategies the moment they stop serving him. He wastes no emotion on what could have been because his eyes remain on what is. He does not ask, "Did my plan work?" He asks, "What must I do now to win?" This, too, is how life must be approached. Each day is a battlefield. Each moment offers new information. To remain fixated on a singular goal is to fight yesterday's war with today's mind. Deletion frees you from that trap. It allows you to constantly rewrite your strategy according to reality, not fantasy. But make no mistake, few have the courage to live this way. Most prefer the comfort of the goal, even if it imprisons them. It is easier to follow a fixed path than to lead yourself through the unknown. The strategy of deletion demands awareness, self-command, and the ability to face life without guarantees. Those who master it become unpredictable, unstoppable, untouchable. For they no longer move towards something. They move from something, from strength, from presence, from understanding. And in a world of men chasing after illusions, the one who no longer chases becomes the only one. Truly free power does not live in the future. It breathes here, in this very moment. Yet most men spend their lives chasing ghosts of tomorrow, mistaking them for destiny. They build their dreams on clouds and wonder why they collapse. They confuse movement for mastery, ambition for control, and hope for strategy. But the truth, the forbidden truth, is this: control exists only in presence. The man who lives entirely in the future is powerless in the present. He is an actor reading from a script he did not write, trapped in rehearsal for a performance that never begins. Every action he takes is for something else, somewhere else, someday else. But power, my friend, does not wait for someday. It happens now, in this breath, in this decision, in this strike. You cannot dominate what you do not inhabit. If your mind is always elsewhere, you surrender your influence to those who are here. Look at any ruler, any strategist, any manipulator who rose above his peers. They all mastered one thing before anything else: presence, the ability to be entirely engaged in the reality before them. To see clearly what is, not what they wish would be. The weak man, however, cannot stay present. His thoughts wander like slaves. His emotions pull him from one fantasy to another. His attention leaks through 1,000 cracks of worry and desire. He spends his life either regretting the past or obsessing over the future, never realizing that both are illusions. The past no longer exists, the future has not yet arrived. Only the present can be influenced, only the present can be shaped, and that is where control hides. Presence is not a passive stillness, it is a weapon. It sharpens perception. It allows you to read people, to sense power shifts, to notice what others miss. When you are fully present, your awareness expands. You see the subtle changes in tone, the cracks in confidence, the openings in conversation where influence can be planted. To those still lost in thought, these moments pass unnoticed. But to you, they become opportunities. Small, invisible, yet decisive. When a man learns to stay present, his power multiplies silently. He speaks less but says more. He acts slower but strikes harder. He observes longer and therefore understands deeper. He no longer wastes energy on what he cannot control. And in that very act, he gains control over everything that matters. Presence is the soil of clarity. Without it, decisions rot in confusion. With it, every choice becomes precise, deliberate, almost inevitable. It is the difference between reacting and ruling. The man who reacts is enslaved to circumstance. The man who rules is guided by observation. This is why deleting your goals matters so deeply. When your mind is obsessed with outcomes, you are absent from the moment that creates them. You lose the ability to see the battlefield as it truly is. You act not from awareness, but from anxiety. You try to predict the future instead of commanding the present. And the more you try to control what you cannot, the less you control what you can. A man consumed by goals looks outward. A man anchored in presence looks inward. And it is inward, not outward, where power begins. To master presence is to master the one thing that never leaves your command: yourself. When your mind no longer drifts into what might be or what should be, it becomes razor sharp. It stops leaking energy into imaginary outcomes and begins shaping reality as it unfolds. This kind of focus is terrifying to those who lack it. When others are distracted by dreams, you are already acting. When they are planning, you are executing. When they are hoping, you are observing. You begin to move with precision, like a silent predator in a world full of prey who shout their intentions before they move. Presence creates aura. People feel it even before you speak. Your calm becomes authority. Your stillness becomes intimidation. The truly powerful are not loud. They are composed. Their attention does not scatter. Their words do not rush. They inhabit every second completely, as if the world itself bends around their awareness. In every field, politics, business, relationships, war, presence separates the masters from the followers. The follower is always chasing the next step, always anxious about what's next. The master moves through each moment like it already belongs to him. His mind is so aligned with the present that even chaos cannot unbalance him. While others panic, he sees patterns. While others freeze, he acts. Control through presence also changes how you experience power. When you are fully here, power stops being something you chase and becomes something you radiate. You no longer need to prove yourself because proof exists in the way you carry yourself. You no longer seek validation because certainty lives in your awareness. This is not arrogance. It is alignment. Understand this. Presence is the ultimate rebellion against manipulation. Those who wish to control you cannot do so without pulling your attention away from now. They tempt you with fears of what might happen or promises of what could be. The moment you take the bait, you are lost. Your energy leaves the present and flows into their game. But if you remain here, in full awareness of what is, their illusions crumble. Their words lose weight, their power dissolves. That is why presence is dangerous. It cannot be bought, bribed, or broken. A man who lives fully in the now cannot be distracted because he sees through the tricks of time. He understands that all manipulation depends on emotional reaction, and emotional reaction depends on mental absence. When your awareness is rooted in the present, no one can drag you away with dreams or fears. You become untouchable. Every empire, every manipulation, every downfall begins with distraction. The loss of presence is the loss of control, but those who maintain it, those who anchor themselves in the real moment, unshaken by illusion, they command not only their world, but the minds of those still trapped in theirs. Presence is not silence. It is power without noise. It is the calm eye in the storm while others are swept by it. It is not the absence of movement, but the mastery of motion. When your actions are born from the present, not the past or the future, they carry the full force of reality itself. And so, my friend, we return to where all power begins. The mind. You have been taught that progress demands goals, that ambition requires endless pursuit. But the truth is older, darker, and far more liberating. The more you chase, the more you are chained. The more you cling to the future, the more you lose command of the present. The art of control is not about collecting victories. It is about mastering the arena of each moment. When you delete your goals, you do not erase purpose. You purify it. You act not because you must reach somewhere, but because each action strengthens your sovereignty now. You no longer depend on fortune, on validation, or on what others promise. You depend only on your own will, your awareness, your strategy. Most men are slaves of desire, trapped in pursuit of what they do not have. They chase illusions painted by society, by envy, by the fear of being ordinary. But the Machiavellian mind understands that true mastery is not found in reaching a goal. It is found in controlling oneself when the goal disappears. To live without rigid goals is to move with freedom. To act without desperation is to rule. And to stand fully present in each breath is to possess the kind of power no one can steal. Remember this, the man who no longer needs to chase is the man everyone begins to follow. Delete your goals. Control your world.